Welcome to episode 9. This is the sequel trilogy to the original trilogy that obviously came before the prequel trilogy. Just lost for words.
I don't know what any of that means.
Well, sequel trilogy is the trilogy that followed the original trilogy, which actually came before the prequel trilogy that came before the sequel trilogy, but between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy.
Is there a postquel? There's a prequel. Is there a postquel?
That is a brilliant question, because I've just told you that a sequel is the equivalent to the opposite of a prequel.
You didn't say the opposite of a prequel. You didn't say that.
Follow, prequels precede.
Yeah, but you're saying lots of quill and I'm getting confused.
So it's not prequel, postquel, it's prequel, sequel.
Well, they should have called it postquel, shouldn't they? Because it would make sense.
This is what I'm working with. You're listening to DevDecoder podcast. You can subscribe and like us on all the major podcasting platforms and YouTube.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at DevDecoder.
You can email us using podcast@devdecoder.com.
Or check out our website at devdecoder.com.
We love hearing from all our listeners, so make sure you get in touch and let us know what you'd like to hear about. Well, do you remember a few weeks ago, I was quite angry?
You're always quite angry, so it
No,
depends what you're talking about.
If you remember, last week I decided I was going to be less angry, and it has worked, because the European Union, basically just absolute dedicated followers of the DevDecoder podcast, no doubt, they actually decided to vote against the new copyright directive that I was complaining about. In a rare and what some have called a surprising U-turn, they have sent it back for reconsideration. Now, it doesn't mean it's over, so it needs to go back. You know, the music industry is crying foul, but I think they were greedy. I think they went for too much, and I think genuinely they need to be asking themselves, yes, you know, ultimately they should be about content generation, not protecting just revenue and money. It needs to be about how do we generate better and more quality content.
Have they said why they've gone back on it?
Yeah, because they accepted the arguments, I think, the kind of arguments that I was making and all the other people in the industry were making, which is that this is really poorly thought through legislation that's going to have a chilling effect on internet freedom and on on the benefits that the internet has brought, and that it needs to be given some much more serious thought and not rushed through in the way it was being done. That seems to have gone to heart, and they seem to have decided to take another look at it. Whether or not that means we get some good legislation, that remains to be seen. But it does mean that at least round one of this has been won. It's never a war that's been won, it's more a battle that's been won at this stage, and we need to make sure we keep fighting to make sure we get legislation, first and foremost, made by legislators that understand what it is they're legislating. Well, I think that, I think the main bit of evidence that's come out, if you look at some of the decisions that have been made by governments and legislators across the world in the last decade, a lot of it has been poorly thought out and based on people who've not really understood, and therefore basically devolved their decision-making process to lobbyists and vested interests, who are not necessarily promoting policies for anything other than personal greed and their own ambitions.
At least they're listening to people.
Well, the music industry came straight out and said they're going to fight for this, so I'm not sure that they're particularly listening to anybody at the moment, but they're going to have to do. This is going to force them to hopefully start looking at a way forward. They could just come back and start demanding the same rubbish they were demanding before, and hopefully that's not what they're going to do. Hopefully they're going to be a little bit more pragmatic this time and look for a way forward that isn't so badly constructed.
So we both know that robots are going to take over the world.
What, there are more topics in the tech industry than Facebook and world-dominating robots.
But I'm passionate about this, Craig.
You are clearly
I've got to
passionate
follow
about this.
my passion.
You do actually, to be fair to you, this is actually a really important topic for society to be debating in a mature and honest way, in a calm way. Failing that, though, let's just talk about it the Rebecca way. At least it's on the topic. It's on the agenda and people are discussing it. So
robots are going to take over the world.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely what Terminator taught you, and it's good that you got some education. Did you watch Terminator?
Yeah, I have watched Terminator.
There we go.
I have actually watched it.
I have hope. Okay.
So now there's a robot that can run upstairs. It can bounce. If you push it, it can recover from it.
Oh my word! But most important question: can it look under the bed?
Yes.
Well then, we're doomed.
Do you not think this is scary? Have you watched Black Mirror?
I would say everyone keeps telling me I should watch that. I don't get a lot of time to watch TV, but I should watch that. I think, realistically, if robots are going to be useful to us, their ability to climb stairs is going to elevate them beyond the role of the Daleks, isn't it, really? But I think it's probably something that they should need to be able to do. It's actually incredibly complex, and it requires some really cool machine learning advances to do things like climbing stairs and navigate past obstacles. There's some brilliant research been done. Which company is this? Boston Dynamics or
MIT?
Oh, MIT delivering. Yeah, actually, if you see videos of a lot of this stuff, some of it's still very early days and prototypes, but we do need to get to the stage where robots can actually navigate around in the same way humans can to be able to offer service, etc. So.
No, I disagree.
Active role research.
I disagree.
Yeah, I think now that they can look under beds, that means you can't hide under your bed, and now they can climb the stairs, it means they can get up to the bedroom, doesn't it? So, yeah, a bit difficult. We could always beat the Daleks by leaving them in the cellar. I do worry that you are taking this whole robophobia thing a little bit seriously, though.
You won't be saying that when they take over, will you?
Well, I have to admit, occasionally I walk around the house with a baseball bat. Because, one time I was walking around the house and I was like, Vivian was go, why are you walking around the house with a baseball bat? And I said, well, because, it's those damn Decepticons. You never know when they're going to jump out of you. And Vivian was like, yeah, whatever. She was laughing. I started laughing. The toaster started laughing. I hit the toaster. Good times. So today we've got another friend of ours. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name's Amir. I'm a software engineer, or a junior software engineer.
How long have you been at Web Applications?
Well, I first joined 2 summers ago as a summer placement for, the summer, and I was offered a scholarship to carry on to 6th form, which I accepted, obviously. And then I came back the next summer and worked for that summer, and I was then offered another scholarship for my final year, and now I'm back for hopefully a degree apprenticeship.
It's kind of a bit of an unusual route into the industry, some people would think, but actually, as you probably know, it's getting more and more common.
Yeah.
What do you think the advantages were to starting getting into the industry at that age, and what are the disadvantages? It's quite young to start making career choices, isn't it?
Yes, it was. To be honest, even I could have said no to the scholarship and I could have pursued another career. But what joining here enabled me to do is to discover a passion for computer science and for software engineering and software development. But there were some disadvantages. One of them was I didn't actually build a framework so sometimes I think the saying is you have to build the scaffolding before you can start building a house. I tried to build a house without the scaffolding, so I spent a year after I finished working here trying to basically go back and say, okay, and build a framework. So then when I came back next year, I was a lot better at it than I was the year before, and I had made a ton of progress. And I've tried to do the same for during my final year of A-levels to try to just, in my spare time, keep building on that scaffolding until I felt it was to a level that I did progressed over next year. Still not perfect, but it never will be. And so when I come out this year, I feel like I've further progressed myself as a software engineer.
So one of the things that we quite like here is that we try to give you a sense of just how massive this industry is. So in your first year, we only have you for about 8 weeks, don't we, over the summer back then. This is your first time you're going to be here for a whole year, well, even longer now.
Even longer, hopefully,
and in that 8 weeks, trying to teach you anything of real value is very difficult. So what we do is basically drown you almost in just how big it all is. But you've kind of hit the nail on the head of why it kind of works. Yeah. Because then you go away from that thinking, wow, I don't quite get it yet, but I know now what I've got to go and figure out, and I know now what to go and look for.
It's like there's 2 things that can happen. It's like seeing something that overwhelms you. You can either think, I'm never going to be good at this, I'm going to fail at this, I'm going to walk away now and do something that I might succeed at better, something that might be easier. But I think you say sometimes with passion isn't always about doing something that's easy. It's doing something that's hard and building your way and working your way and deserving it, not just having it presented to you. And if this was something else, if this was something like, I don't know, a music thing, and I was overwhelmed by the amount of stuff they threw at me, I would have given up. But with software, I think that is my passion, and I think that's what made me want to go and pursue it the year after I finished my first year and keep building on upon that scaffolding.
Yeah, I think that's really good, but we also have to be careful, don't we, to make sure that we don't put people off, and that's quite the balance of this.
So one of the biggest problems in software, as I think you've said, is the software engineering industry, as you said, is mental health. And it's very easy, especially in this industry, to be overwhelmed by the amount of stuff. Like, even I've spent 2 years working here, and I've been through training 2 times, and this is my 3rd time going through training, and there's stuff that still, like, looking at it overwhelms me by how complicated stuff can be, especially in the travel industry. But at the same time, also fascinates me and makes me want to carry on further. And I think we have a good balance of the two, where we get help whenever we're stuck and we get help whenever we need support, but you're also left to it. You're left to design a solution, and obviously there's a feedback process where you go and see, okay, I want to do this. Is this good or bad? No, it's bad. Go back and do it again. Iterate on it until you have something good.
I think this is one of the things that mental health professionals are starting to look into, and one of the things we're trying to learn from, which is that it is actually a mistake to try to give people or reinforce the illusion that everything's okay and everything's in control, because the problem with that illusion is it'll always get shattered. There'll always be something that comes along and makes you realize actually life is a lot more complicated than we think it is, and we are far less in control than we like to think we are. And actually a much more robust strategy to mental health is to get people to understand how to live and work and cope with being in that level of uncertainty. Hopefully, I mean, we've got a course coming up fairly soon on the imposter syndrome. We've got a great guy coming to talk to us about that. So you'll hopefully be going on that course. Well, I'm looking forward to coming and seeing him speak again, because our industry is dominated with that, isn't it? I mean, you'll know this yourself, but even I have imposter syndrome on occasion, which is this idea that I'm the only person that doesn't know what I'm doing and everyone else knows what they're doing. When in reality, nobody knows what they're doing, because what we're doing is new, it's innovative, it's something that nobody's done before. And so it's okay. And the real message there is to say to our listeners, which hopefully you've seen us do again in the last couple of weeks when we've been doing the new training again, saying to everybody, you know what? You're out of your depth. You don't know what you're doing. This is a lot bigger than you think it is, and that's okay.
It'd be weird if you weren't out your depth. To be honest, you'd be one of the few people that weren't. It's very normal. And after my first year, I had that imposter syndrome thing where I thought, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I also, for a brief time, had some sort of arrogant side where I had the opposite end of the spectrum, where I thought, this is going to work, this will definitely work. And as I came to realize, it did not work at all. So when I came back in my second year, I was a lot more humbled. And I basically realized, okay, take this slowly, take this one step at a time, and I made a lot more progress and got what I was given done, which was a big step for me as well. It really boosted my confidence in the industry. So I think over time you get better, and over time you improve. But it's a question of whether you stick to it or not, and whether you have grit, I think. That's the term for it.
I think you've actually hit the nail on the head with the humility as well, because as you know, I've always said discovery takes humility, and what I really mean by that is it's not until you realize you don't know something and until you're willing to be open about your ignorance, until you're willing to say to people, you know, I don't understand and I don't get this and I don't understand, please explain it to me. Until you go out and are willing to ask for help, which takes a humility, it takes a willingness to say, you know what, I don't have all the answers. And it's not about having the answers, it's really about knowing how to go and get them that matters.
The first time I came here, I kind of thought, okay, I have to like go away and pretend to know a bunch of stuff that I don't. And when I realized like you knew that I was saying I knew a bunch of stuff that I don't, I then came to realize it wasn't necessarily about how much I knew at the start, it's about how much progress I make throughout my time here. And that's the most important factor, and which is why whenever people at my school ask me, I don't know anything about programming, but I wanted this web apps thing, is it a good idea? I always say, yeah, you don't need to know. It's not about how much you know at the start, whether you can know absolutely nothing, but it's about how much progress you make at the start towards the end.
It's about finding that passion, like you said, isn't it? And having just discovering something about yourself as well. I think that's one of the most rewarding things here is seeing young people come here and learn about themselves and find their passions and then pursue them with a hunger. And a hunger for knowledge comes from a place that you're already hungry, you know, and you can't be hungry if you already know everything and if you already get everything. And in our industry, because everything's moving on so quickly, none of us know everything because stuff's being invented every day. So how could we possibly know it all? And I think if you get yourself in a situation where you feel comfortable and you feel like you've got it, you ultimately stop learning, you stop growing, your passion starts to die.
That's one thing. No one here, I would say, knows everything. Everyone here is willing to learn. Every week there's a training course on something new, and every week different people go to different things. Yeah. There's tons of conferences that I think are even paid for by the company that people go to. There's hundreds of events and different things that people want to go and learn to, and that's the thing that separates, I think, this company from most that I've seen, because I've worked in other companies, not software companies but general companies, is that it's with most companies you just come in, do your job, go home. But people here, I've noticed, they are passion, like they have nothing but passion and love for the industry. They help whoever they can. They are willing to go out of the way to help you. I remember I had a lead engineer called Nick Stafford when I was here last year, and I was doing something and I couldn't get it done, and we sat there till 8 o'clock in the evening trying to get it done, and then we finally got it done. But if I was in any other place, that person might have helped me for about half an hour, so it was home time, right, we'll do it tomorrow and go home. But because people here are so passionate about the industry, they're willing to basically go above and beyond what they're expected to help. Yeah.
Well, it's really lovely talking to you again. Hopefully we'll talk to you as you've started your degree apprenticeship at some point and find how that's going.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'll be glad to.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
The other thing that robot technology is allowing us to look into, and there was an article about this again on the BBC's website this week, which is exoskeletons. So have you heard about exoskeletons?
No.
So exoskeletons are the idea where you can put an external machinery around, for example, someone's legs and arms, etc., that is powered and allows you to augment their movements with powered machinery, yeah? So there's you probably saw Avatar.
Yeah.
And remember in Avatar, they wore these big robot suits, effectively.
Yeah.
And they walked around, allowed them to carry heavy things and lift heavy things and even fight and punch in them, because they basically just, as they move their arms, it moves the exoskeleton. So the US Marines and the US Army and DARPA, isn't it, have spent a lot of time researching exoskeletons. But the other thing they can be used for is, for example, disabled people. You could put exoskeletons around their legs and then they could re-walk again. So there are,
How does it actually work?
So what you effectively have is imagine braces down, just like on the Avatar thing. You'd have like braces. So if you think of old style polio braces, when you've seen pictures of people with polio and the big braces around the legs and
like
stuff.
Like in Forrest Gump.
Yeah, but instead there's servos and motors on there, and what they do is they detect the nerve signals that you're sending, and they move your leg. So they actually move it. Now, a lot of the exoskeletons have a full skeletal structure, so they go from the legs to like a backpack and stuff, and then to arms and stuff. So the whole weight of the machinery is carried by the legs. So you are just walking normally in it, but actually it's walking a robot that you're inside, effectively. But the more simple forms are just basically, rigging and structure around you, and these are becoming more and more realistic and reliable, because part of the issue with them is you have to mimic the human. You can't exceed certain tolerances, because you could obviously easily break somebody's leg off or something, so they have to be very safe because you're actually inside them, and if they moved to an angle that your body couldn't make, for example, they'd literally just tear you apart. So that's the danger of them, and they have to be able to interpret what it is you're trying to do. So a lot of exoskeleton technology at the moment is based on detecting the movements that you're making inside and then basically mimicking that.
What happens though if you have a lot of nerve damage in your leg, and will it be able to tell what you're trying to do?
Well, this is where it's getting really fascinating, because we do now have nerve-computer interfaces, so we can measure dynamically in real time signals going down nerve endings, and the key then is to map that. So what you'd effectively do is have somebody sat there that's disabled and say, imagine you're walking. So it would work most effectively for someone who has become disabled, and so they've had a lifetime of being able to walk up to that point, and you can say to them, close your eyes and start walking. Or actually what's proving really effective at the moment, particularly for stroke victims and people like that, is VR. So using virtual reality, they put a virtual reality headset on someone and say to them, start walking, and then they reproduce the movement of them walking in the VR, and they actually think, I'm walking, and it can actually cause the pathways to re-heal, and they end up being able to actually walk.
See, that's cool.
But what that'd be useful for is they'd play this stuff through, and then in a VR system they'd interface with you with the legs and stuff, and they'd tune it until in a VR system you can walk, and when you're comfortable with that, they now know how to read those nerve endings and interpret the walking motions, and they could actually then plug you into an actual exoskeleton, and you could then actually walk. So I think there's some really exciting uses for some of this technology. Now, in many ways, it's effectively the same kind of problems and the same technology that just ambulatory, because kind of robots you're talking about, ambulatory robots that can walk. It's the same problems, because you effectively, as an exoskeleton, you have to balance your mass and the mass of the thing inside you, so it doesn't fall over, which is also very similar to the kind of problems created by, solved by things like Segways. Have you ever been on a Segway?
No, I've seen them though.
So incredible things where effectively they stay upright using a gyroscope and the movement of just the wheels to keep it upright. So they're basically balancing the whole time.
I thought you had to keep it upright.
No, they keep themselves upright. What you do is you put pressure on them by leaning one way or the other, and it interprets that as a desire to move forward or backwards, and that's what causes the forward or backwards motion on it.
I think I do so bad at that.
You'd be surprised how quickly you can pick them up. I had a wonderful Segway tour of Washington, D.C. It was a great way to see Washington, D.C. You're surprised, actually incredibly good fun. Those kind of technologies come about because of the advances in gyroscopes, advances in where we are now miniaturized gyroscopes that can, effectively you don't need an old gimbal. You can actually do it with a chip. You were saying, you can push the robot and you can resist that pushing motion. That's detecting a change in the centre of mass and reacting to correct for that, just like the human body does. You do the same yourself with your inner ear. So in your ears, in both of your ears, there's something called the canal, and it's 3 semicircles all at 90 degrees to each other, which covers the 3 degrees of motion that we have in 3D space. Mm-hmm. And they can detect effectively pitch, tilt, and yaw. So they can detect your head movements. So even when you've got your eyes closed, you can detect what orientation your head is in because of the fluid inside these freaks ear canals in each ear.
Is that where you can get vertigo?
Yes, and it's also when you get hammered,
which is
and you feel very
regular,
dizzy, it's because the little hairs in these ears react to the alcohol. It's something to do with the alcohol in those ears, and they interfere with the semicircle canals, and you get mixed signals coming from it, making you think that the fluids are moving in those ears, and that causes you to think you're no longer balanced. That's why you fall over so much.
I don't actually fall over that much. I used to at uni, but not.
No. You seem a little sad, Rebecca.
I'm very, very happy.
Why?
Actually.
Why are you so sad?
So happy.
So sad.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, why is that?
Because I'm going away.
You're going to be on holiday. Does that mean we're going to be missing your intelligent contributions to the podcast for the next few weeks?
Intelligent and humorous.
Okay, yeah. A little bit of a change. And then you shall hopefully be back soon.
No, I'm not going to be back soon.
You're not sure if you're coming back?
I'm going away forever.
Oh, now I am feeling sad. Oh, that's really quite a depressing note to end on. No, but you are going to come back, aren't you? Because I'm sure our listeners would like to know that they're not going to be without whatever you're called for much longer.
I'll be back very soon.